I performed an earlier, more conservative version of this lecture at the Poetry Academy in Vienna last year. I was invited to go there and actually teach a group of adult students about songwriting. But first they wanted me to give a public lecture. The subject I chose was the love song, and in doing it, I mean standing up in front of a crowd of people and teaching, lecturing, I was filled with a host of conflicting feelings. The strongest, most insistent of these feelings was one of abject horror. Horror because my late father was an English literature teacher at the high school I attended back in Australia, where the sun shines. I have very clear memories of being about 12 years old and sitting, as you are now, in a classroom or a hall, watching my father, who would be standing up here where I am standing, and thinking to myself gloomily and miserably, for in the main I was a gloomy and miserable child. It doesn't really matter what I do with my life, as long as I don't end up like my father. Now at 41 years old, it would appear that there is virtually no action I can take that does not draw me closer to him, that does not make me more like him. At 41 years old, I have become my father, and here I am, ladies and gentlemen, teaching. Looking back over the last 20 years, a certain clarity prevails. Amidst the madness and the mayhem, it would seem I have been banging on one particular drum. I see that my artistic life has centered around an attempt to articulate an almost palpable sense of loss that laid claim to my life. A great gaping hole was blasted out of my world by the unexpected death of my father when I was 19 years old. The way I learned to fill this hole, this void, was to write. My father taught me this, as if to prepare me for his own passing. I found that through the use of language, I was writing God into existence. Language became the blanket that I threw over the invisible man, that gave him shape and form. The actualizing of God through the medium of the love song remains my prime motivation as an artist. I found that language became a poultice to the wounds incurred by the death of my father. Language became a salve to longing. The loss of my father created in my life a vacuum, a space in which my words began to float and collect and find their purpose. The great W.H. Auden said, "The so-called traumatic experience is not an accident, but the opportunity for which the child has been patiently waiting. Had it not occurred, it would have found another, in order that its life become a serious matter." The death of my father was the traumatic experience Auden talks about that left the hole for God to fill. How beautiful the notion that we create our own personal catastrophes, and it is the creative forces within us that are instrumental in doing this. Here our creative impulses lie in ambush by the side of our lives, ready to leap forth and kick holes in it, holes through which inspiration can rise. We each have our need to create, and sorrow itself is a creative act. Though the love song comes in many guises, songs of exultation and praise, songs of rage and of despair, erotic songs, songs of abandonment and loss, they all address God, for it is the haunted premise of longing that the true love song inhabits. It is a howl in the void for love and for comfort, and it lives on the lips of the child crying for his mother. It is the song of the lover in need of her loved one, the raving of the lunatic supplicant petitioning his God. It is the cry of one chained to the earth and craving flight, a flight into inspiration and imagination and divinity. The love song is the sound of our endeavors to become godlike, to rise up and above the earthbound and the mediocre. I believe the love song to be a sad song. It is the noise of sorrow itself. We all experience within us what the Portuguese call saudade, which translates as an inexplicable longing, an unnamed and enigmatic yearning of the soul. And it is this feeling that lives in the realms of imagination and inspiration and is the breeding ground for the sad song, for the love song. Saudade, or longing, is the desire to be transported from darkness into light, to be touched by the hand of that which is not of this world. The love song is the light of God, deep down, blasting up through our wounds. In his brilliant lecture entitled The Theory and Function of Duende, Federico Garcia Lorca attempts to shed some light on the eerie and inexplicable sadness that lives in the heart of certain works of art. All that has dark sounds has duende, he says, that mysterious power that everyone feels but no philosopher can explain. In contemporary rock music, the area in which I operate, music seems less inclined to have at its soul restless and quivering the sadness that Lorca talks about. Excitement often, anger sometimes, but true sadness rarely. Bob Dylan has always had it. Leonard Cohen deals specifically in it. It pursues Van Morrison like a black dog, and though he tries, he cannot escape it. Tom Waits and Neil Young can summon it. My friends the Dirty Three have it by the bucket load, but all in all it would appear that duende is too fragile to survive the compulsive modernity of the music industry. In the hysterical technocracy of modern music, sorrow is sent to the back of the class, where it sits, pissing its pants in mortal terror. Sadness, or duende, needs space to breathe. Melancholy hates haste and floats in silence. I feel sorry for sadness as we jump all over it, denying it its voice and muscle it into the outer reaches. No wonder sorrow doesn't smile much. No wonder sadness is so sad. All love songs must contain duende because the love song is never simply happy. It must first embrace the potential for pain. Those songs that speak of love without having within their lines an ache or a sigh are not love songs at all, but rather hate songs disguised as love songs and are not to be trusted. These songs deny us our humanness and our God-given right to be sad, and the airwaves are littered with them. The love song must resonate with the whispers of sorrow and the echoes of grief. The writer who refuses to explore the darker regions of the heart will never be able to write convincingly about the wonder, the magic, and the joy of love. For just as goodness cannot be trusted unless it has breathed the same air as evil, the enduring metaphor of Christ crucified between two criminals comes to mind here. So within the fabric of the love song, within its melody, its lyric, one must sense an acknowledgement of its capacity for suffering.